Hey, what's up, friends? Now, I know we all got into music in different ways. Some of us grew up in houses filled with music. Some of us had friends that got us into music. Some of us were late in life and all of a sudden music started to click. And now some of us, our whole lives have collected vinyl and cassettes and CDs. Sometimes, we gave it up and now we're back, and we all have these really cool stories. But I'm curious. I'd like to start a thread talking about a few albums that used to mesmerize you as a kid before you even heard the music because of the album cover or the presentation, seeing something like Kiss, but maybe not knowing what they sounded like as a little kid. So I am going to show you 3 albums that as a kid mesmerized me. They were on the adult list. These were not albums I was going to be able to grab at the time and listen to in my household, but visually, they put a sound in my head, and I had this feeling of what they sounded like, and I was always just kind of mesmerized or scared or curious about these albums. So I would love this to be a thread. I'd love to hear from you guys out there too. So show me 3 albums or t-shirts or posters or whatever that mesmerized you as a child, and it wasn't till years later that you actually dug in and realized what the music itself sounded like. So I hope this works out, because to me, I have a whole bunch of them. Today, I'm going to show you 3. Let's do this. Okay, so this first album is probably one of my earliest recollections of one of those moments growing up as a kid, seeing it and being like, what in the frick is that? And then growing up, it was just everywhere. It's just always been there. So I was so excited to get my own copy of it, finally as an adult. By then, I already knew what it sounded like. But as a kid, I thought, because of this album cover right here, Blackout by the Scorpions, okay, from 1982. It's their 8th studio album. But this, growing up as a kid, 1982, so I'm 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, growing up with this in my face every weekend, and I'm wondering what the heck. And in all honesty, I was thinking that it was, some sort of type of music, because the guy's got forks in his eyeballs. Forks in his eyeballs. Now, I did learn that this is actually a self-portrait by some sort of artist that does really weird self-portraits of himself grimacing and stuff. So that's interesting. Something else interesting about this album is Klaus, the lead singer, one of my favorite vocalists of all time. I just love the Scorpions. Glad I grew up and found out that this wasn't as scary as it looked. My favorite song on here is When the Smoke is Going Down. It's a beautiful ballad. If you never heard it, listen to it. But this album, Klaus was having voice problems, so they actually got Don Dokken to sing almost all of the tracks, and then went, no, and Klaus healed up, and then Klaus did it all. But Dokken is doing some backing harmonies and gets a little bit of credit on this album as also. So that's interesting. But anyway, this used to mesmerize me, scare the crap out of me as a kid. Next. Okay, this is another one from right around that same time frame. This one's a year later, 1983. This is the 3rd studio album by this band. And again, just as a kid, it's mesmerizing. It is absolutely mesmerizing to see this as a 6 or 7-year-old kid. So Metal Health, Quiet Riot, just a darn good album. But you look at this as a kid and you're thinking, welcome to hell. But then you play it and it's, come on, feel the noise. Yeah. Girls rock the boys. We're going. I mean, it's just like, do, 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 do. But as a kid, I was just like, no way, no way. So, awesome album. But as a kid, I was absolutely mesmerized. And in the early 80s, this was everywhere, okay? By the way, this is the first heavy metal album to hit #1 on the Billboard 200. This actually knocked out Synchronicity, or whatever it's called, by the Police. So that's pretty impressive. And then I brought with me just, here is their next album, their 4th album that came out, which was not quite as successful, but same dude. He was still there, but you know, most of the posters and stuff were of this guy right here. So anyway, next. All right, last one. This one is the 13th album by this guy. Now, my mom and dad were huge, especially my mom, Bowie fans. Still is. My mom, who's, you know, getting up there in her late 60s, still has posters of Bowie up. So, yeah, anyway. But, you know, and I was used to Bowie being strange. I grew up in a Bowie house, right? Ziggy Stardust and Aladdin Sane, and I'm half man, half doggy, and am I a boy, am I a girl, am I a lady, and am I a human? That stuff didn't freak me out. But there was an album that came out in 1979 that just, I don't know why, but it mesmerized me, freaked me out, and it just didn't get a lot of airplay. So it wasn't like Lodger was something, but it was around. It was around. My parents owned it. I saw it. I saw it in record stores. And, you know, I never could understand what's going on with Bowie's nose here. And, you know, he seems to have like a cast on his arm, and he just looks like he's been beaten, just absolutely beaten. And it just always tripped me out. So there was one hit off of this, Boys Keep Swinging, and it's probably the most rock and roll song on this album. Most of it's like art rock and experimental rock. It definitely is not normal, but it did go number 4 in the UK and number 20 in the US, but part of that's just because he's Bowie. But that album cover mesmerized me as a kid. But as an adult, I've actually gotten into this album, and I really kind of like the world new wave kind of edge to this album. It's not normal Bowie. It is not very poppy, but it's really cool. And for some reason, it goes well with this album cover. So there you have it. 3 album covers that used to mesmerize me as a kid, and as I got older, I got to really understand the music. Please, let's make this a thread. I think it would be kind of interesting if you have some takes on this as well. Please be blessed out there. Talk to you later.